And now it's time for today's daily forecast with EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Martridge.
Hey, good Wednesday morning to you. It is September 12th, 2018. We have a lot to cover in the video like we've had for the past couple of days. And of course, our main focus is going to be on Hurricane Florence. And that is right here, where it's expected to be later today. Should be a very strong hurricane, Category 4 hurricane today. Maybe even flirting with Category 5 is going to come awfully close. I don't think it makes landfall or approaches the coast at that point. I think it's going to decrease a little bit. But I think Category 4 or strong Category 4 is probably a pretty good call right now. We're going to have a few scattered showers today, and this is not in association with Florence whatsoever. This is just a decaying frontal boundary that is still kind of focused over the region. So we're going to have a day today that's very similar to what we saw yesterday. This is showing a little bit more activity than what we're really, in truth, expecting here. Here's a look at the NAM high-res future simulated radar. Maybe just a spotty shower right around the noon hour or so in some areas, give or take a few hours. And then you're going to have things are going to improve during the afternoon. And just mostly cloudy skies. So mostly cloudy means you're going to see peaks of sun, kind of like we saw yesterday in a few spots. The skies brighten a little bit. You might have a quick peak of sun, and then it goes behind the clouds again. That's the kind of day we're dealing with today. And then as we get later in the evening, mainly for the interior. Yesterday we had some interior showers, but we also had a pretty potent cluster of showers and storms that moved up through this area like this. We are not expecting that today. Just some interior showers. I'm not really expecting any thunderstorms out of this, and that should be during the course of the evening, and then it will go a little bit past midnight here too, up into the wee hours of the morning on Thursday. Once we get to Thursday, maybe a morning shower early on. Most of the day is dry, and then you have a late day shower possible also, but very isolated it looks like. So that's going to be the theme of the next couple of days. Not a real big deal, just late day showers, and you have something going on in the morning, just a pop-up type thing, isolated to widely scattered activity, and that is not in association with Florence. Now, Florence is expected to near the coast on Thursday evening, Thursday night. You're going to already start feeling down here by the greater Wilmington area, and along the entire southeastern coast of North Carolina. This is most likely our landfall point, or where it's going to impact the worst first. Okay. So there has been, we've always favored this area as like the centermost point of our cone, but there was still some uncertainty whether it could go down here or up here to Virginia Beach or something in that range. We're now narrowing it to pretty much just North Carolina, right anywhere from the North Carolina, South Carolina border, more likely Wilmington, though, all the way up to about Morehead City. So somewhere in there we'll get the direct impact from this system, and it should be a very strong Category 4 hurricane when it comes to this point. Now we move forward from this point, and this is kind of interesting, not in a good way. This system is forecast to stall right near the landfall point. Whether or not it actually makes landfall here isn't really that important. The eye wall, if it remains offshore, is even worse because you have these constant winds coming in like from this direction, from the south and east, battering the shoreline, and at the same time dumping very heavy rain. If this thing stalls, that is going to be very catastrophic, even if it's not a Category 5. The wind's not going to be as big of a deal. You're going to have storm surge that's 5 to 9 feet. 5 to 9 feet, that is salt water from the ocean being pushed up onto land, onto ground that is normally dry, and you're talking about 5 to 9 feet of standing water above normally dry ground, which is an incredible storm surge. On top of that, you have 20 to 30 inches of rain near the landfall points. And you also have winds, of course, gusting over 100, well, at this point, probably gusting over 140 miles per hour, which will be pretty impressive for this area. This has not been seen, a Category 4 hurricane of this intensity has not been seen since Hurricane Hazel. That's been a long time ago, and that's well before I was born. See, the outer bands are getting up here to Maryland and Delaware, so we're going to have to watch our southern areas for maybe some of those outer bands to be a little bit gusty, but I think the main theme there is down here by the landfall point. This is actually looking at early Friday morning, and the European model and the GFS did something very interesting today. They're both recognizing that there's a strong ridge over the top, so this cannot go further north. If you're looking at those runs earlier in the week, they were showing you, we were showing they were going to make landfall somewhere around here or whatever, and then it kind of meandered up in here in this direction. Some of you even had going back over our area with remnants. That is no longer the case, and the reason is building this ridge over the top where it cannot go any further, and it starts drifting southwest on these latest runs. because this ridge builds in to the east of it. It's going to force to the south. And it's going to be very, I can illustrate this a little bit better in a minute here. I just want to show you the NAM high-res future simulator radar. This is out of the Raleigh area, and it shows very close to Wilmington, South Carolina, or excuse me, Wilmington, North Carolina as a landfall point. And this too, in subsequent frames, tries to stall it or maybe drift a little bit further south and west here. So we're going to have to watch this. It's going to be it's a very interesting development that's been going on in the models today. And I'll show you why it's been doing that. Again, the ridge is over the top here. You cannot go through this ridge. No matter how strong this hurricane is, it still has to follow the laws of physics. It cannot defy physics. Okay, so this is not plowing through a ridge. This is the ridge to the east of it that is driving it toward the coastline. It has it's there now, and it's going to continue to push it up in this direction. Just, clockwise flow around a high pressure is pushing it right into the coastline somewhere near here, and we know that. Now, what's slowing it down is, as we go a little bit further to 24 hours later, this is looking at Friday morning, right when it's near its landfall point. Now, why is it stopping here? Well, you have the ridge to the east of it, but it's breaking down. You put a little H here. This ridge is breaking down, so it's no longer really steering it toward the coast. There's another high pressure off to the east. This is 591 decameters. This one here is also 591 decameters, but it's actually getting influenced by a trough that's sneaking under the ridge that's weakening this high pressure right here. So it's this high pressure right here is losing its grip, and it's going to go away. So this one right out here, this high pressure, this ridge that's building here, again, clockwise flow around it, look what it's doing. It's going to push it south. Okay, so initially this high pressure is going to have equal forces fighting each other, so it's going to stall it. That's the idea what the models are doing. You got equal forces, one pushing it south, one trying to push it north, and it just it can't go anywhere. There's no steering flow, so it just stalls right there. Eventually this one weakens, and then that's why the models are starting to push it back to the southwest. See what it does here? It goes a little bit further down toward the North Carolina, South Carolina border, still offshore, and then ends up making landfall all the way down here in southern South Carolina. Now, whether it's that dramatic or not, we'll see. But you can see it's certainly not going north with this ridge sitting up here. It just can't. So that's what the developments of the models have been doing today, and that's why you saw those what seemed to be a crazy solution. But the GFS has been doing some things where it gets to a certain point. It may have been too far north, but it's been pushing it to the south and southwest, or looping it. The European model did that today, and that's what I'm showing you here at 500 millibars on the European model. So very impressive storm, but this is not impressive in a good way. This is if you have any friends or family that are down here that are being stubborn and they don't want to heed the evacuation orders that are going on in North Carolina, South Carolina, please urge them to do so. This is not a your typical hurricane that hits this area. The last Category 4 hurricane that came through here was Hazel, and that was before most people were born. Okay, except the old timers, they'll still remember that. But this area, I shouldn't say old timers. That's like my parents' age here. It's not too old, but you get the point. Most people that are trying to stick this out are younger generation or people my age. They're going to try to stick it out here and just be tough guys. They just don't do that. It's not smart. If you live in a coastal community, you need to get out of there and heed the local evacuation orders. This is a very strong Category 4 storm, and when we say it's going to has the potential to destroy life and property, they mean it. This one means business. This is not a typical hurricane. This is a very, very strong hurricane to the likes that this area has never seen for many of these people that are alive in that area. So a lot of things going on there. Just make sure you continue to watch this over and the evolving forecasts. You see what it does. This model, of course, brings it down further southwest along the coast, and I just showed you why. Now we're taking a look at a couple things here. Here's the system out in the Atlantic. And right now it's kind of getting sheared a little bit on the southeast or southwestern side. You got some dry air coming in here because there's a kind of a residual trough that was sitting here. And you can't really see it on this image. I wish I had the visible, but we're already past dark here, so you can't see. You can see some of these clouds kind of going off to the south here, and on this side they're going off to the north. That's just what's the residual trough that's kind of sitting in here. It's acting to shear this on the southeastern side. So some of that dry air is getting entrained in the system, so it doesn't look as organized as it did. But that trough will get out of the way probably overnight or early tomorrow morning, and this should start to re-intensify. At the same time, you see the eye isn't really as defined as it was just several hours ago. And part of the reason for that is this is the microwave pass. This is taken by the aircraft, and this is showing the inner eye wall of the hurricane and the intensity of it. And you can see here's the inner eye wall right here, but you can see around it you got another one trying to form around it. We went through one of these yesterday where you had an eye wall replacement cycle. This looks like it's just the start of it. It doesn't go all the way around, but you have the inner eye wall right here, stronger on the western side. Here's your inner eye wall. And you have another one trying to wrap around here on this side. It's not quite all the way around here, but this is the outer ring that will eventually constrict the inner one and replace it. And when it does so, this hurricane will get much wider than it currently is. Okay, so the eye will get wider, the wind field expands, this hurricane as a whole expands, but it also will probably decrease during that process in speed. So it's at 140 now, it might go to 130 again, and then once that eye wall replacement cycle is complete, it starts to increase again. We will have rapid increases of strength on Wednesday, it looks like, in a very favorable environment out ahead of it before landfall. And the National Hurricane Center actually has us going up to 155 miles per hour, which is very close to Category 5 there. So you have to watch this very closely. But I think because of this, depending on how long the eye wall replacement cycle takes to complete, it'll determine whether it gets that strong before landfall. But I'm kind of doubting. I would just say strong Category 4, but it really doesn't matter. 4 or 5 is going to be devastating along the coastal areas. Just continue to follow our weather alerts page. Again, we're going to be updating this twice a day. And if I can find the image of what I did with it, where is it? Nope, not there, not there. Right there. There it is. Okay. This is our latest track guidance. This will be updated twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon. It'll have our latest tracks of landfall point of where we expect that to be. You can see today, because of that uncertainty with whether or not it hits here, or maybe just parallels the coastline and goes further south. There's some uncertainty where the exact landfall point is because of that. And that southwest shift, does that happen over land or does that happen over water where it can maintain strength a little bit longer and then drift southwest? So we had to open up that possibility today. We'll update this, again, twice a day, morning, afternoon, probably about 9:30, and then we'll update it again at about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we'll change this as this gets closer and we have better confidence on where those landfall points will be. Right now, the red zone's 80%, orange is 40%. And the yellow is 20% chance of this is for a direct hit. Okay, so you're going to have impacts with a large system over several states. So this is not indicating that. This is just where the landfall point will be. And of course, where landfall point is right around that eye is going to be where the strongest winds are with the hurricane itself. But it's going to be a lot more expansive with the hurricane winds than just the eye. It's going to go all the way up the coast, up and down. So you're going to have some pretty wide-ranging impacts, and especially from rain, with 20 to 30 inches of rain possible in some of the eastern parts of North Carolina, especially in parts of South Carolina, Southern Virginia. You have to watch this very closely. I'm Eastern PA with Authority meteorologist Bobby Marchus. That is your outlook for September 12th, 2018. Have a great Wednesday.